Well, hello, Sabina. How are you today?
Hey Debbie, doing great. Always wonderful to spend time talking to one of my favorite people. So no
Oh,
complaints on my end.
likewise. Well, we're going to do a little interview about me being an alumni of the CCC for a future alumni newsletter. So, for our audience, will you please introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Yeah, my name is Sabina Marroquin. I am a college campus minister in Durham, North Carolina. Just wrapped up my first academic year as a full-time campus minister, which is very exciting. Debbie, you've been with me for the last 5 years of doing some other really wonderful and exciting things, all of which kind of been gently nudging me in this direction. And then I saw that Francisco stated this, so I will also share this. I am single, but not in a like, this is a default until something or someone better comes along sort of a way, but in like a really joyful, intentional way. So maybe this isn't something that you probably hear very often, but I'm happily single.
Yeah. Okay, you said you're in Durham, North Carolina. What school is that?
I'm at Duke University.
Okay, that's awesome. And I think you were my first. I've had alumni go on and be in ministry, like Cassie, but you are my first in campus ministry. So it makes me super excited and happy to get to have this little time with you. What year did you graduate from MSU and what was your degree?
I graduated in 2015 with a Bachelor's of Applied Arts and Sciences, so a really impressive Duke level degree. No, it's the most generic degree you can get. I switched, as you know, majors my last semester, so.
Yes. But that also shows that you can go on and do other things with the BLAS. So then what did you pursue in grad school?
Master's of Theological Studies,
And
yeah.
where did you do that?
At the University of Dayton,
Okay,
in Dayton, Ohio.
awesome. Master's of Theological Studies. I love it. Thinking back to when you came to the CCC, do you remember what your first impressions of our community were?
I do, because it was a really powerful one for me. I had moved in early because, as you know, it was very, very cool. And I was in the marching band. So we
Yes.
had about a week of practice before classes began. And nothing was particularly wrong. You know, I love music, I love making music, and I have, friends in the band, things like that. But something was missing in that week. And I had, with no one else on campus, I had a lot of time to be alone with my thoughts, or if you're me, a lot of time to just worry about things. um, and I remember questioning in that week of like, did I make the right decision coming to MSU? And I just felt such a strong sense of like uneasiness. Um, I was so eager for classes to start and for people to move in, because I was like, I just need something to distract myself with, because I'm unsure if I made the right decision coming to this school. And that's the feeling I walked into the CCC with for the first time. It was the Sunday before classes started, and it was Sunday night mass, and I can't tell you what it was, so I'm just going to credit the Holy Spirit, this presence of the Holy Spirit in it. But I felt so at peace coming to mass that Sunday night, and I didn't know a single person there, but it felt right. And I remember thinking that, it's almost like I knew that this place was going to be home for me, that was going to be really special. So that was my first experience, very powerful, a sense of belonging and community that definitely proved itself to be true in the following 4 years.
Aw. Yeah, that was my next part of my question. How did that impression change over time while you stayed with the CCC?
Yeah, I think over time, which we see just kind of like in the maturing of our faith, right? Instead of just like receiving as maybe we do when we're kids with our parents, but at some point you're like, you know what? It might be nice if I take my parents out for dinner or something. Like they always
Yeah,
take me
yeah.
out. But like that responsibility of just wanting to share and be joyfully kind of give back. I felt that for the first time, throughout my 4 years at MSU of I'm invested in this community. I want to give back. I want to volunteer for these retreats. I want to invite, my peers to come to mass with me, and really feeling that responsibility, enjoying the benefits and the fruits of that community, but also feeling responsibility for cultivating it and then bringing new people always into it as well.
Can you describe a memorable experience or a moment that you have from the CCC?
Oh, there are so many moments, and I feel like I could take this question so many different directions. But One thing though that I will say this, I'll maybe take a different interpretation. One thing that I miss the most about the CCC
Okay.
is chaplet, our weekly chaplet.
Oh, yeah.
Those moments in our that little chapel just on the other side of that wall there. I remember, we would all kind of like, I'm COVID brain. I'm like, how did we do that now? Like all of us singing in that tight enclosed space.
Yes.
But there would be, I remember it'd be like you, me, Michael, Benton, and then like, Kaylee with these beautiful harmonies, all of these voices, like singing and praying the chaplet together. And me that only knows like one note, and like just such a mix of accents and voices and praying together. And if you are looking at it or listening to it purely from like a musical stance, you're probably like, oh, it's kind of a cacophony of voices and doesn't sound that beautiful. But I remember, every Friday going there and praying and almost being brought to tears, and definitely brought to tears sometimes, of just like, this is so beautiful. Like this is church.
I think you've kind of talked about this, but tell me a little bit more about how you think your experiences at the CCC have helped you in life after graduation.
How do I say, everything I've done since graduation has been directly tied to the CCC. This is the first job I've had that you have not directly explicitly sent my way, but literally everything that I've done, whether it's the Center for Faith Justice or Dayton, those are all things that you have put on my radar. So I think my situation's quite unique. But I mean, even in picking this job, you're someone I reached out to this summer when I was kind of trying to choose between campuses, and I really value your advice. But I guess maybe a more applicable answer is, I think one lesson that I have learned that I continue to share, and I feel like really shapes my life, not just my faith, is I remember one time I was preparing for a small group, and it was the parable of the disciples picking wheat on the Sabbath. And one of the questions is like, are they justified? Yes or no? It was some sort of like morality question. And, black and white questions and binary questions really tripped me up. And I was like, Debbie, I need to meet with you before small group, because what if someone asks this question? Like, I don't know, technically they're wrong, but also, I mean, if Jesus says it's okay, like, so I was really struggling with that. And essentially the lesson that you taught me from that is love over law, and this idea of we have to first know the love of Christ before we can maybe, or it's easier if we know the love of Christ first before we try to love the law first, or love the law second.
Right. That's beautiful. And I think it's what you're saying is it's about relationship and being relational. And again, that was like Jesus was all about, like, come over here, let's talk. And he was relational, and he started with building relationships. And then he was like, okay, so now we have this relationship. Let's talk about kind of the nuts and bolts of it. But I think that I like that you say that, because I think that's where we start. We start with relationships and building those. And so thanks for saying it that way. What advice would you give to a current CCC member, either spiritual, academic, whatever? What would you want someone to tell you that they didn't tell you, or what would you want to say to someone now?
You might have told me this too, so I'm just gonna, this whole interview is me just saying the highlights of Debbie.
No, I don't like that at all.
The highlights of all the things I've learned from you. I would say be faithful to your daily fiat, right? So which is maybe a word not everyone knows. So in the first chapter of Luke's gospel, right, we read about this conversation between the angel Gabriel and Mary, right? And this is where Mary gives her yes to saying like, yes, being the mother of Jesus. And that's the fiat, right? Like that's her fiat. So I would say, be faithful to your daily fiat, in the sense of who or what is in front of you. And I know for myself, as a college student, I was so caught up in trying to figure out what the big picture was for me. I really wanted to like be secure. I was so afraid of making the wrong decision that I either didn't act, or if I made a mistake, I really kind of beat myself up over it. So, and I lost sight of maybe some of the the more important things, because I was so overwhelmed with the big picture that I didn't even complete, the small tasks in front of me. So I would say, be faithful to your daily fiat. Who or what is in front of you? What is God asking you to do today? Know what that is, and just ask and pray for the grace to be faithful to that, whether that's God, be with me in the next hour that I need to study, or like, Lord, help me be patient with whoever I encounter today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be my advice.